Hey, this is Sam Black with my fourth match with Miracles and Legacy. On the play, pretty solid hand. And my opponent is on 6 cards. It's like a mirror. I can imagine that I'm supposed to force that. So few cards matter, and we're both just so likely to hang out. Yeah, I'm gonna force that. Now I'm just gonna go for counterbalance. All right. All right. Between having Dig and Snapcaster in my hand, I'm going to brainstorm a little too aggressively here to look for a land. Alright, respectable. I think I put back Jace and Dig. That was not great. Wasteland is fine. I think that the order I put the cards back was wrong. But I don't think it matters now. So I can't cast either one of them now anyway. Alright. Didn't expect Wasteland. I know my top card is Jace. I think I just pass here. I really don't want to brainstorm and lock myself on 2 lands. Don't like letting that resolve either, but I think top puts me under enough pressure that I need to cast the brainstorm and just hope to find a land. Didn't, so now I'm in really horrible shape. Very horrible. Now I know that I can't really do anything for at least 2 turns. Alright, I can't really imagine how I'm going to win this game, but I think my best chance is to just put a Snapcaster in play and somehow hope to attack 9 times. Which is one of the worst plans I've ever heard, but I can't cast any spells and my opponent has top counterbalance, so... Alright, that's sort of a start. I guess my opponent doesn't have a ton of 2s, and it would be nice if this resolved or I drew a counter. I'll just cast it. Alright, made my opponent use a counter spell. Count that as a victory. That's not great for me. Cast dig. Don't think there's any reason to leave mana up. No. Right, I do have a mountain in my deck. That's very good news. I think I just want mountain and island, though I could certainly see a case for mountain and counterspell. I guess this mountain doesn't really do anything because of counterbalance top. Alright. Maybe I just take Scalding Tarn, so it lets me shuffle. Shuffling seems good. Yeah, sure. Now I'll attack the Jace. Play the mountain. Okay, fine, he's gone. Alright, now I have a plan. the plan is to pyroblast my opponent's Jace, forcing a top activation. Ideally forcing my opponent to put top on top. Then my counterbalance will be countered and I can cast Jace and plus Jace to get rid of my opponent's top. Suppose I could theoretically do the same thing with my top instead of with Pyroblast, and then I'd still have Pyroblast. Pyroblast does seem pretty great, but it uses my mana less efficiently. So I have to cast top and Jace on my turn. I have to break the fetch land. Whereas if I Pyroblast and then play Jace, I get to just play the fetch land. I could also not use Jace and just play top. And then if my opponent has to do something about it, play Pyroblast in response. But I think that line is worse against my opponent just having a 1 on top. I think I'm just going to go for the Pyroblast. We got a top activation. Now let's see if this can resolve. Nope. Alright, well I can try the same thing over again with top Jace. First part of the mission successful. Bottom, yes. Don't know if I'm supposed to play this land. Don't see a super strong need to. fine. Looks like I've successfully broken up my opponent's top counterbalance, at least for now, although there is another brainstorm coming. And we're in the more interesting situation of Jace versus Jace, where mine is ahead on counters. And my opponent has a counterbalance, but only with Jace to set it up, which is much less powerful than top. And I have to decide if I want to try to play a game of Magic where I use Jace to get ahead on cards, or if I just want to try to ultimate my Jace. And I think the answer is that I actually just want to try to ultimate my Jace. So I'm going to plus again. And I'm curious what level my opponent's on. What did you do with your Jace? You put a land on top? Okay. I'm not going to put that on the bottom. And I will play my land, I suppose. I don't think this is a winning line, but I think counterbalance puts my opponent ahead enough on playing a fair game. And I think I have removal spells for creatures that make it potentially difficult for my opponent to deal with my Jace, such that I think just trying to win the Jace ultimate race is not horrible, but it's not something I generally like doing. Jace's 0 ability is certainly a lot more powerful. Feel like doing this to myself is likely better, but there's so little that I'm actually trying to find. I guess that's not true. I need to be playing a game while I'm doing this. Bottom, yes. So my opponent has a lot of reactive cards that don't do anything now. And I just need a couple turns to pass. So I have no idea how hopeful to be. That's a little scary. Problem is, there's a reasonable chance that my opponent just has another Pyroblast in the deck somewhere, which would be really horrible for me. I'd basically just lose if that happens. Which is why I'm chasing myself to try to find a counterspell, but my opponent almost certainly has counter backup, given how many cards up my opponent is. I guess I'll do my opponent's library this time. It's fairly arbitrary. Vendilion click. That's fine. Okay, I like that I targeted my opponent's library, because now I'll know what counterbalance is on, which will tell me a lot about how to play this. I'm getting clicked here. Maybe it won't tell me anything about how to play this. Maybe I just need to play the swords now. Hello. No, I don't. I can block with my own click or something, potentially. That's not very likely. Maybe I can terminus. I don't know. I want to know what this counterbalance is on. Doing this in response to Jace was really smart. It's on 5. Force of Will isn't a card I especially want, or especially don't want my opponent to have. It's worse than average for me, but it's also not something that deals with click or counters a spell. I guess I'll leave it. I mean, it counters a spell. It doesn't counterspell with counterbalance. I guess I'll just try casting Terminus. I think that's more likely to work than Vendilion Click. He needs a counterspell either way, but Vendilion Click also dies to Swords to Plowshares. Well, things are a lot harder now. And I know that my opponent has another Force of Will. That's also not great for me. A little surprised it took that long to happen. Now I think I have to 0. So I can Snapcast or Dig. Or just in general, I can Snapcast her to force a counterspell. I think I maybe I don't need to play land. Just pass and then do things at the end of my opponent's turn. Or at some time on my opponent's turn, anyway. Let's use this to try to make something happen. Okay, what do you have? Not terribly surprising. It occurs to me that I'm not sure that this it gets a Plains. Plains is not a great thing to get. wondering if I want to... Yeah, I think I want a Snapcaster just to hope my opponent doesn't recognize that I can't really get useful mana with it and does something about the Snapcaster. That doesn't bode well. My opponent already knows the top three. I imagine this is getting countered. Counterspell on top. Force Wheel, Chase Wasteland. Yeah, I don't know why I played the Snapcaster before being able to take the Force Wheel. Anyway, I guess now I'll get rid of that Force Wheel that I let my opponent keep before, which would just put Counterspell in my opponent's hand. Yuck, but fine. Otherwise my opponent will have access to both of them. Vendilion. Oh, no, that was... Wait, was that Vendilion quick attacking me? That's weird. I guess I have to brainstorm again. Alright, I guess I just have to hope this resolves. That's the big plan. My opponent has a counterspell, but I have a force. Oh. Strange, I thought those were going to be in the other order. Awkward. Alright. Well. This Crocus is incredibly awkward. I guess it just means I can't Miracle the Entreat and have to hardcast it. That's so bad. Maybe I have to just hope my opponent doesn't notice it. I could just hardcast it for 2 angels. No, there's like a Jason play. That's really not a winning line. Wait, Terminus. What happened to Entreat? Did I shuffle away Entreat at some point? Oh no, my opponent chased me, probably. Okay, I'm just very confused about what's happening. Anyway, yes, I'd like to Miracle Terminus. I guess I had not noticed that my opponent's chase started going up until last turn. It all makes sense now. Wheels Terminus. Okay. Alright. I wonder if I can potentially win by chasing my opponent out after I get chased. I have a lot more cards in hand. Don't know if I can race the Vendilion Click, but if the Vendilion Click stops attacking me, I don't know. Everything's horrible. Oh right, I knew that was on top. That's stupid. Should have at least chased myself. I guess my chase wins the race to ultimate anyway. My opponent just goes to 11 and then I go to 12 if my opponent doesn't attack it. Still theoretically Miracle Terminus. Looks like my opponent's ready to counter it though. Knowing my top card makes it somewhat less likely, so let's shuffle, and my opponent has exactly 5 mana untapped. Let's cast Brainstorm. This might have turned off a Force of Will. I guess I don't actually need or want to Miracle Terminus. I just want to hardcast Terminus so that my opponent can't Caracas click the Terminus in response. Wonder what my top card was. Real Magic, you would be able to know. Oh, how about that? I do not want to Miracle. Probably should have plus Jace first to check for Terminus on top of my opponent's deck. That was a mistake. in position to erase my opponent's Jace ultimate, so I guess I have to 0. I don't know what I'm looking for exactly. My own entreat, of course. But how do I make that happen? I almost certainly can't. Draw step brainstorm? I don't think that really does anything for me. I wish I had, I don't know. I'm not sure how I can win this. Right. So this will probably click me, which will draw me into my entreat. Or not, because I can just keep these because my opponent doesn't care. I can brainstorm in response. I think I have to brainstorm in response. It'll trigger a miracle that I won't use. And I'll just try to hardcast entreat. No, I need at least 3. I don't think there are any more lands in my deck. Let's make sure. I don't think it can really hurt me to sack this and miss. Okay, great. I don't think you're going to find one. Get rid of that Terminus. Hold these cards in my hand to give myself as much time as possible in the Jace Ultimates. Now I'm probably dead. My opponent's Jace Ultimate kills me before I can win. No. Treat. That's not good. My my hope was to make my opponent spend cards enough that I could ultimate right before, like, empty their hand, and while I got Jace up to ultimate, and then ultimate and deck my opponent one turn before I got decked. I think that might have been mathematically possible if everything went perfectly, but now I'm very dead. I'll just concede. Alright. That was a long game that I was losing basically the whole way, but it felt worth seeing how it played out rather than conceding to have time for this next game. I think Flusterstorm is good enough, but I'm not sure. Dillion Click is good. Monastery Mentor seems good. Wear and Tear doesn't seem like a great answer to Counterbalance. I guess if you fuse it, it's an awkward cost for them. Explosive seems better. Cavernous Souls seems great. And I think you want Needle, maybe, even though you have the same cards. You definitely don't want a lot of Terminuses. Spell Snare feels mostly too narrow. Maybe Flusterstorm just fights over the wrong things. That seems true. I think it fights over the wrong things and it does it in the wrong way. I don't want a lot of plows. But I do think I need to be able to interact with my opponent's stuff. And I think I just cut a couple of forces. This is not perfect, but it's reasonable. Realistically, I can't win 2 games in 4 minutes. This game is mostly about the clock. Trying to talk through my decisions, it won't be terribly easy to win the clock war. Given that using top is a questionable proposition, I'll let that resolve for that exact reason. And I'm going to top just because I want to find lands. Great. Wizard. Obviously worth fighting over. Look for a land. Fail to find. Settle for counterbalance. Land again. Fail to find. Cast an awkward Vendilion Click. Target me. Get rid of Terminus. Attack. Little surprised my opponent didn't just Crocus it, but I guess they didn't want to give me an engine. Look. Draw that. That wasn't the right way to do this. Force pitching chase, I guess. Force back. Brainstorm. Put those away. Play this, sack it, get this, cast chase. Make my opponent do things. No, cancel. All right. Blue, mana, Venser. Bounce counterbalance. I should have used Jace. Need to go for a win. Sure, I'll put that on the bottom. No, you can draw that. Obviously could have fought over that, but it wasn't worth the clock. Plus, yes. Plus, no. Minus 12 U. All right, I'm up 7 seconds. I think the trick is to mulligan to 0 and take off all my stops. Oh, I have my opponent's in stuff. My second main. Alright, now I have no stops. No, that's bad. No! Alright. I was the victor. What a ridiculous way to win.